All right, next gear review. Get this straightened out just a little bit. And if you hear a noise in the background, it's my beer sign. So anyway, next gear review. Pioneer SX 3900 monster receiver. These were made 1980, 1981. I'll have to look at the serial number on this one to see when this one was manufactured. I believe this was 1980, but I'm just going off of memory. So the topology on these, so this is a non-switching amplifier. And to be honest with you, I don't know that I completely understand what that means. Right? You can find forum posts and pages and PDFs dedicated to the non-switching amplifier and exactly what that means, exactly how it's great or not great. I know they didn't have that topology in many of their receivers or amplifiers. I think it was maybe the 9800, the SA 9800, and I think the A9 amplifier, and then the 3900 and the 3800, and I'm sure there are some that I'm missing. Right, power output's 120 watts per channel. Dimensions 21 by 7 by 18. Weight is a whopping 44 pounds. This thing is a beast. Pretty heavy amplifier. So where did this fall in the product lineup? So they had a couple of different series going on at that time. They had the D7000, which shares a lot of the same circuitry and circuit boards as this one. And I'll talk about that when I talk about serviceability. But they're very similar in design. Then you had the 3X100 series, so the 3900, 3800, 700, 600, 500, 400, you know, all the way down the line. Then you also had something called the Communication Series, 1981. That's where the A9 lived, right? And I may be missing some other makes or model numbers, but so this was definitely the top of the line for the 3X100 series. So as you can see, aesthetically, this is kind of a hybrid. It's a transitional kind of receiver where we have analog, right? So we have an analog tuning dial. We also have digital. So if I come over here and move it, you'll see that it moves. Tune in a station. It has the cool blue fluoroscan display and meters, right? I like meters. Meters are kind of cool. In terms of the sound for a receiver like this, I would say, comparing it to like a capacitor-coupled receiver that's kind of tube-like and worn, this is definitely going to be clear, punchy, very detailed. I noticed that on the 3800 especially, there's not a lot of low end, right? But this was made for a time when music was mixed differently and recorded differently than a late 60s, early 70s capacitor-coupled receiver. In terms of usability for a user, it's super simple. I mean, you've got all the cool buttons to go between the different functions. In terms of those functions, right, you've got a couple of speakers you can hook up, A and B. You've got a high and a low filter. Yeah, I think it's high and low filter. You have FM muting. You have also, I don't know what that does. Right? I think it's some kind of noise reduction, but not like Dolby. You can bright or dim the display. You've got FM, AM, auxiliary, phono 1, phono 2. You have a loudness contour button. You have multiple bass and treble controls. So you have a turnover control. You have bass. You have treble. Then you've got a couple of tape monitor switches, balance, volume, muting, and stereo or mono mode. So really simple to use, really simple to hook up. Nothing really tricky with this one. In terms of serviceability, so these things, I would definitely say that this is an advanced receiver to work on. So if you look at the inside, it's packed. You have to disassemble quite a bit to get to whatever it is you have to repair on it. There are a lot of common faults. Now going back to the non-switching amplifier, the NSA, what that really means for you in terms of the user experience is, and if you look at the top of this, basically the entire top is open. These run really, really, really hot. So you have to be careful if you're even thinking about stacking something on this or driving these too hard. Now again, going back to serviceability, in terms of serviceability on these, advanced, lots of little gremlins in here. Some common faults are the bias transistors, right? A lot of times, you'll know the bias transistors because the middle leg is fatter than the other two. And those are known to fail over time, and it's something that you definitely want to change if you have one of these across your bench. It also uses bat wing. I don't know what the actual nomenclature is, but bat wing transistors. And if they fail, there are no modern replacements in that form factor, so you have to go in and modify. Using a couple of clips and some different style transistors, a way to secure those. Kind of a pain in the butt there. The fluoroscan display, when that thing goes, it goes. There's really not much of a repair for it other than replacing it with something from another unit. As I mentioned, disassembly is a real pain in the butt on this. Just to get to the outputs and to look at the output section, you've got to pull the heat sinks out. They're not real easy to get to. Power supply on this is, if I remember right, is underneath like this area here. You've got to just tear it apart to get to it. So definitely, you're not going to get in and out of this real quick when you go in to service anything. There are boards that this shares with the D7000, and there was a manufacturing change at some point to where the D7000 board for this, or the D7000 board, and I can't remember what board it was, I apologize. It may be the amplifier board, was used instead of the 3900 board. So when you go in and you look at the schematic, it's not going to match what you see inside the receiver, so you have to go to the D7000. So I guess the takeaway is, if you're working on one of these and you're looking at a board and you're like, that doesn't look like what I have, check out the service manual for the D7000 for whatever that board is, and you'll probably find it there, because there was a change, or maybe the service manual wasn't updated. I really don't know the history behind it. These also have really touchy alignment trimmers on the amplifier board. It's highly recommended you at a minimum test those, right? At a minimum test those and or replace those if you're going to do any type of adjustment on this. Now this one has the originals. I pulled them out when I was troubleshooting it. I did not replace them. I probably should have, and I probably will eventually. And you also have to understand, when you go to align the amplifier on this, you have to follow the alignment procedures exactly as written. And if you overshoot one of the trimmers, if you adjust it too far, too fast, there's a very strong potential you're gonna nuke the amp section. So you got to be super careful on these, right? So again, not for the faint of heart, not for probably a beginner, and that's the 38 and the 3900. The 37, 36, 35, and 34, I believe they're all a different topology. I don't know about the 3700, but I know the 3800 and the 3900 are very, very similar. In terms of prices on this, I would say, and what I have experienced in the past is, if you find one of these restored, right? And when I say restored, I'm talking about a total recap, and it's cosmetically good, and all the lamps are working, and it's not missing any knobs, and the cabinet's not beat to crap. Typically they sell for about $1,600. Some people get really proud of these on eBay. One went out this morning for like $2,400, which I think is insane for one of these. It claims that it was completely refurbished, recapped, all that stuff. So, I mean, maybe. I didn't look at the cosmetic condition, but assuming everything is working, might be worth it. So I'm saying 1,600-ish, maybe, plus or minus 100 or two. Or if you get into one where it's like new in the box, you might want to pay $2,000 for it. Working, so kind of a model. This was a partial recap because I did have to repair it when I got it. The amp board was toast. So this was a partial recap. So I would consider this kind of a working condition plus, but I see them working for around $1,200 consistently, somewhere between $1,000 and $1,200. For parts, and when I bought this for parts off of eBay. I think I got this, I'm pretty sure, if my memory serves me correctly, I got it for less than $500. And, as I'll flash up, or I probably already flashed up on the screen, They go for between $500 and $600 for parts. But understand, if you get into one of these for parts, right, you have your work cut out for you. And if you get one of these with the display not working, you probably are not going to be able to repair it. The display is probably toast. You may be able to, you may luck out, but chances are it's something that's not going to be easily serviceable by you. So who would I recommend this for? This is one of those, if you always wanted one of these, like when you were younger and you're trying to relive your youth and you have the disposable income to buy one that's been completely gone through, or at least working, demonstrated working, right? I would say this is probably for you. If you're an intermediate to advanced tech, I'm kind of in the middle there, I would say, between intermediate and advanced. You might want to take a shot at one of these if you get it at a good price. You know, when I'm looking at things, I always go cosmetics first. This one was really, really clean. I think I had to replace one of the buttons, right? One of the buttons was missing, and I lucked into one for like $40. So, you know, if you want to challenge yourself, and if you're very patient and you're very detailed, this would be you know, a good one to work on. If you're impatient or you're just starting out, this could frustrate you right out of the hobby. So I would definitely say, if you've got some time under your belt and you've worked on a couple of, you know, direct coupled amplifiers, late 70s vintage gear, then this will feel pretty familiar to you. If all you've worked on are tubes or cap coupled things, this might be a little bit more difficult. So anyway, that will wrap up the review for the Pioneer SX3900. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. If you like these types of videos, if you want to see something, please provide a comment. I'll see if I can find one, and I'll do a gear review on it. But other than that, I'll see you in the next video.